Now, I know that a lot of people buying this instructional series are going to be coming from a Brazilian Jiu-jitsu or a gi-based background, wanting to pick up some stuff for a no-gi game. Maybe they want to diversify, maybe they're thinking about MMA, maybe they're thinking about self-defense. So let's talk a little bit about the mistakes that are made by people coming from a gi background, coming into a no-gi standing situation for the first time. I mean, one thing that comes to mind for me, somebody coming from judo, in judo they penalize people for bending over, right? Mm-hmm. You have to essentially fight with an upright posture. But if you've come into a no-gi grappling match with a really upright posture, you're going to get taken down by a shot right away.
And you know what? I think it's we can sort of generalize here in the sense that there's going to be a lot of people who are wrestlers or maybe sambo fighters that feel comfortable jumping right into no-gi, right? And what we want to be careful of is if you're too upright, you leave everything on your bottom half exposed. And all I need to do to really shoot in is either, wipe the hands out of the way, pop them up, and change levels. You want to make sure that you kind of are a little bit more aware of what's going on the bottom end. So when we think about stance, we want to think about making sure that we're a little bit forward facing, but, again, upright enough that I can attack my partner's head and come in, but I also want to be in a position where I have the space to shoot down if I want to, right? Also, with my staggered stance, I don't want to be like super square to my partner. I don't want to just be like this, right?
You don't want to be in the traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu stance with this?
No, I mean, that's dangerous too, right? Like you draw your hips all the way back. I mean, this can be bad as well. Somebody comes in and grabs your head. It's perfect position for me to start thinking about jumping guard,
or getting
right?
slapped down.
Yeah, or just leaving your arms out. I mean, I've seen people get flying arm bars thrown on as well. I mean, one of my good friends, Annette Stack, she's one of those ladies that just takes that arm and it's gone. So you want to think about what you're leaving exposed and how to protect yourself. And we're going to be talking about this later on in the series, but we want to keep our elbows tucked in as well. We don't want to be extending with things that we don't have to.
So when you compete no-gi, what does your stance look like? Show me. I'm the big bad guy.
So one of the things I want to think about is I want to be stable from side to side, but that doesn't mean I want to stand out like this, right? So just about a little wider than hip width apart, and I like to draw one leg back. I'm a left leg lead, so I'm going to draw my right leg back just a tiny bit on a slight angle. The other thing I'm going to do is I don't want to be straight legged. I want to think about bending down just a little bit, but I'm not bending at my hips like this, right? I'm not leaving my head exposed. I want to think about changing levels just a tiny bit, so I'm going to use my knees to drop down. My body's slightly leaning forward, so I'm ready to attack. I don't want to be too square backwards. Also, if I'm like this and Stephan comes and pushes my shoulder, I'm going to go back, right? So I want to think about being able to stay here and be flowing, right? As I do this, I'm also thinking how I want to be moving. I don't want to just think about moving back and forth, okay? It's, I think it's Muay Thai, right? Where you're just sort of moving in these lines. I want to think more about being able to cut angles a little bit.
I am going to get so many angry emails from Muay Thai fighters now. Thank you. But go on.
So while I'm here with the ring or, the amount of space that you're fighting in, you don't have the luxury of being able to just chase people out of the ring and just draw them back. You want to sort of stay within your boundaries. So to do that, one of the things that you can do for space management is sort of, move laterally. So every time your partner tries to drive forward, you kind of cut a bit of an angle. What that does is it forces them to turn back in towards you. So whether you're moving side to side or sometimes cutting an angle this way, cutting an angle that way, that also helps you attack them from the standing position.
Now, when we've closed the distance, with the gi, you can sometimes get a grip and hold onto it for a long time. I don't think that's as much the case in no-gi.
No, I don't think it is at all either, right? With no-gi, we've already thought about the idea that, it's going to be a little bit more slippery, you're sweaty, okay? You're also not always going to be able to grab the things that you want to grab. So don't be fooled by the fact that if you grab your partner's forearm, that you can just hold on to it for a good minute. In the gi, sometimes if you get a good sleeve grip and your partner doesn't know how to break it, you can, right? So anytime you're able to take advantage of a good grip, use it right away. Don't let yourself hang on and go, I've got Stephan's wrist. I got a really good grip on it. So let me just figure out what I'm going to do. You don't have 10 seconds. You don't have 15 seconds to do that. Maybe at best you have 5. Also, coming from the grip, I also want to be aware of the fact that if I want to pull guard, I need to make sure that I have a good position to do that. And what I mean is, in the gi, sometimes if you grab your partner's sleeves, you feel good about being able to prop your foot on the hip and fall back. You can't really do that in no-gi, right? If I try to do the same thing and I grab Stephan by the wrist and I fall back, my ass is on the ground, maybe he's already on top of me, or just like he did right now. He circled his arms out, and I don't really have anything. So if I'm gonna be pulling guard, I have to think about how I'm gonna do that effectively. Maybe I'm gonna have a good grip around the back of Stephan's neck, and I'm gonna jump guard. Maybe I'm gonna have the 2-on-1 grip or some sort of an arm drag, but I don't want to get into the habit of thinking that all of my gi guard pulls are going to translate 100% into no gi.
So you need to fight a little bit more for your grip and think about that a little bit more. You've got a little bit less flexibility.
It has to be pretty precise, right? You know, I'm not going to take this grip for granted. I have to really think about what I'm going to do with it. I can't just go, oh, well, this is just like grabbing the sleeve. It is not like grabbing the sleeve. This is just like grabbing the lapel. This is not grabbing the lapel, you know? So you have to understand that even though you can make grips, you can make handles on your partner, they're not gonna be the same. So make sure you adjust accordingly.